You're listening to Community Heroes podcast featuring people sharing about their stories with their disabilities. And now for your hosts, Brandon and Pate. Welcome back to Community Heroes podcast. In today's interview, I have the privilege to interview the Arizona Wildcats Athletic Director for Adaptive Sports, Peter Hughes. How are you doing today?
Good, Brandon. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get into adaptive sports on the college level?
I didn't. I got my master's degree in Australia and was introduced to adaptive sport there. I was born with a disability, but never played, never dealt with it. Always thought it was, kind of a feel good stuff, like everybody gets an award. And I was a little too competitive for that. So stayed away from it. And then when I was in Australia, a guy introduced me to adaptive sports and I fell in love with it. I was a football coach prior to that. So I was pretty competitive and then fell in love with playing sports and moved that direction to play for a little bit and then back into coaching adaptive sports.
Of course, what is your disability and how did you not let that define you into where you are today?
Yeah, my disability is arthrogryposis, irregular curvature of the joints. My hips, knees, and ankles are straight out, so I walk like a Frankenstein or a penguin or whatever, Charlie Chaplin. I've been called all those things. Didn't let it define me, probably because my older siblings. I was the youngest of five, and they all treated me as normal as possible. And my mother was, and my father were both strong-willed individuals that said, "Do it for yourself. You go do it." And I remember some parents. I used to play violin, and I used to carry my violin with my crutches to school and back. And I remember some parents going, "Man, I can't believe they don't drive him." But my mom just made me walk everywhere on crutches. So yeah.
What, what was the transition like from coaching football to getting into coaching wheelchair basketball?
Yeah, it was fun. I think wheelchair basketball, wheelchair sports translates pretty well to football, especially the offensive line strategies of football, like the angles and the seals and hey, you got to hit here where it's not a foul and you got to drive forward and then create the holes. So it was fun. Football, I was coaching football for 10 years before I got introduced to adaptive athletics. And it occurred to me that football was going to be okay without me, and that adaptive athletics and wheelchair sports could really use my help as a coach, as a professional coach. So that was what I was most excited about, was the fact that I felt like I could make a bigger impact on adaptive sports than I would ever make on football, which is already well established, right? So, yeah.
What was the transition like going to Australia and getting to study in the sports psychology field?
Yeah, it's great. You wake up in Australia after a super, super long flight, and I think a 15-hour layover in Hong Kong, and you hear some strange birds that sound like monkeys, a kookaburra bird, and you realize you're not in America, not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy, right? So yeah, and the people over there are great. And the beautiful thing about their culture for sport is that they believe everybody should have a go, right? And they've got senior citizens still playing rugby. They got cricket. They got adaptive athletes everywhere. It's not the super elite program here that we have in the United States, where if you're not good enough to play football after high school, you don't play football after high school. They just keep going and going, like they find their categories. So I love that part about Australia. It's a lot of fun, you know.
While in Australia, what was it like becoming the founder and CEO of Wheelchair Athletics?
Worldwide, wheelchair athletes worldwide. Yeah.
Hmm.
Actually, that happened a little bit later when I got back from Australia. I was still traveling around the world playing wheelchair basketball. And I was sitting on this Mediterranean island in the island of Cyprus, sitting and having a beer, I think, with a friend of mine and the sponsor of the program. And I said, "Hey, isn't this great that we're going, that we got to come out here and play?" And he said, "Yeah, but what are we doing? Like, he said, what are we really accomplishing? We're over here, we're drinking some beers, having some wine. It's a great day, but what are we accomplishing? Are we improving the world? And when I went back home, I was bothered by that conversation because I was like, yeah, we're spending a lot of money traveling, playing wheelchair basketball, having a great time, but really not making an impact. And so me and a couple of former athletes decided to create this company called Wheelchair Athletes Worldwide, where we would take the equipment, the sports equipment, in this case, wheelchair basketball chairs, and the coaching expertise to developing countries, leave the chairs there, and put on a couple coaching clinics and start the fires in those communities for adaptive sport, and hopefully change the cultural perception of people with disabilities in their communities as we use sport here in the United States to kind of direct our direction for the way people view people with disabilities here.
Of course, with that business, how has it been like obviously getting to travel the world and bring adaptive sports all around the world?
It's a life-changing moment. It's a magical moment, and it's fun because we get, not only do I go and I bring one other board member that's a former athlete, we always try to bring one additional younger athlete with us, so we get to see his eyes open up and they get to carry on. So we've been to India, Nepal, Peru, Indonesia, and we're going to go to Uganda this May. This will be our last trip before we shut the nonprofit down. And then we're going to try to do something at the university level called Wheelchairs from Wildcats, where we do the similar thing, and we donate sports chairs, but we use our student athletes as the coaches, and we teach them how to do it, fundraise, donate, be good ambassadors of our sport. I'm getting too old to travel the world.
Of course, what has it been like obviously working with the Arizona Wildcats and becoming a head coach for the wheelchair basketball team first?
Yeah, yeah. First, I was a player. For 2 years, I played. And there's no wheelchair basketball anywhere you go. I don't care what you say. It's the best in the world is at the collegiate division, where you practice 5 days a week, you get a professional coach, and you weight lift 3 times a week, you sacrifice. That's the best division there is. And anybody that's competitive at wheelchair basketball nowadays goes through that collegiate division. So I wanted that real bad. I wanted to play and be coached by the best. So I went to University of Arizona. I was the track coach for 3 years after that. When my wife and I were expecting our first child, I had to go back to work. And then I became the women's wheelchair basketball coach. And all of these transitions were fantastic. University of Arizona really adopts its adaptive athletic program as part of the community, and they're very proud of us. And we're real proud to be at the U of A. Yeah.
What was that transition like from you from going from a player for 2 years to getting into coaching?
Yeah, it was good because remember I was a coach beforehand, so I was a football coach for many years. Then I became a player, and then back to a coach. So I think as a coach, I was a little bit aggressive, and didn't understand the player's perspective because I never played. Then I had the experience of playing as 2 years and then listening to another coach kind of yell at me and tell me what to do. So when I got back into the world of coaching, I think I was a much better coach, more rounded coach. Um, but it was great. And what was nice about that was the people that I was coaching, they couldn't really say, well, you don't know what it's like, coach, you don't know what it's like to go to be a student athlete. Well, I just did it. So yeah, and I did it at 34 years old. So suck it up, buttercup, right?
Of course, during your time as a coach, what was it like helping building that team to a national championship?
Yeah, it was great. You know, we had the pieces when I got there. We had some core pieces when I got there. And what I just had to do was teach them to really believe in themselves and trust in themselves. And they did that. Jen Poist, and I'll forget it. I could get D3 and Tamara Moss, and all of these great players got together, and we went to 4 straight championships. We beat all the college teams when we were there. We were a hybrid, so we were in the national wheelchair basketball women's division. we beat a bunch of men's teams, which was always fun too. And we were feisty and communicative, and it was a great experience for them and for me.
What was the transition like for you from going from a college coach to becoming the athletic director for adaptive sports?
Yeah, it was good too. Like I had been kind of groomed by my previous director. Kind of learned in the last couple of years while I was coaching how the fundraising element went for the program, and I'm a vocal guy, a verbal guy, so that was okay. Learning some of the rules and regulations and how you had to, cross your T's and dot your I's and say appropriate things and not steal sponsors was different. I had worked for another nonprofit, like the Wheelchair Athletes Worldwide, where you could just basically go out and ask anybody for money, but there's some more restrictions, and the foundation tells you what you can and what you can't do. So learning those was a bit of a process, but it's been fun.
As an athletic director, how has it been like obviously being known as the third best wheelchair adaptive sports worldwide?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't argue that we're the third best. I would say that we are the best, but we have the largest program. Our philosophy is a little different than other programs, and that's kind of my philosophy. I felt like I missed the opportunity for my first 29 years before I was introduced to adaptive athletics. And since collegiate adaptive sports is the highest level you can go to, we decided when I took over to create the opportunities for any student of the University of Arizona. So if they come to me and they say, hey, I want to do table tennis, it's my job to find out how to support them in table tennis. Now, we won't have the same budget that we have for basketball or rugby or track or tennis or whatever, but I'll help that student be successful at school and academically and also on athletically.
What are the sports that you provide for adaptive sports?
Oh boy, men's and women's wheelchair basketball, wheelchair track, and hand cycling, wheelchair rugby, um, uh, adaptive golf. We now have the greatest, the number one ranked visually impaired female golfer on our team. She gets to go to South Africa in March for the World Championships in visually impaired golfing. It's amazing. Para swim we just started, triathlons, hand cycling, and I'm probably missing one or two, but that's kind of where we're at. I think right around 8 or 9.
Of course, having 8 or 9 athletic adaptive sports, how has that been like obviously bringing the world of adaptive sports to the college level for Arizona?
Yeah, it's a juggling act. Like you have to explain to your sponsors and the public that there are no other collegiate programs except for in basketball and basketball, tennis, and track are the only ones that really have collegiate programs. So you have to explain, well, we're in a league. It's like a club league that we're playing against, and obviously having Paralympians in each one of those divisions really helps the community get notoriety. So yes, it's an interesting thing, but we also have an adaptive gym that is open to the community, and it's all accessible equipment. So the public and the sponsors are really proud of our program because we're serving as many people as we can with disabilities and empowering them through sport.
Of course, what does it mean to you to be the only program to have wheelchair rugby, adaptive golf, and cycling?
Handcycling, yeah, it's a bit frustrating to tell you the truth. I wish other teams would get involved in it. Um, it's just hard to sell. Like wheelchair rugby is very expensive. A lot of pop tires and tubes and maintenance on the chairs. The chairs are expensive. Adaptive golf is the one that really way more colleges should have because all you need is one or two golfers with disabilities to have it. Just similar to tennis, like tennis and adaptive golf should be the easiest things in the world to do. And then para swim, of course, has been around, and para swim does a better job of doing a more full inclusion where they allow para swimmers to be on varsity squads. But we wanted to establish a spotlight for the para swimmers that maybe weren't quite as fast as the Olympic swimmers. or the Paralympian swimmers, I should say, that could keep up with the varsity able-bodied group. So that's why we went into that and the triathletes. So it does bother me that there's not more, but hopefully someone's got to lead the way. So that's us.
How's it like, obviously, to offer opportunities for athletes that have disabilities to have a full ride to play adaptive sports?
Yeah, again, it's empowering. They've discovered that employment rates are tied to not only education, but education and sport. Like it jumps up. Your employment rates for people with disabilities jump up significantly, almost like 27 points, I think it is. And so that's an empowerment issue for people with disabilities. Um, and it's because of the lessons that sport teaches. So the fact that we're providing those opportunities and we're also not putting people into giant amounts of debt is very important. And we always have to thank our sponsors and scholarship office and people for thinking outside the box about how empowering this is to the program. Yeah.
As an athletic director, what is it like getting to see your athletes go on and perform at the Paralympic level?
Yeah, it's great, man. It's great. We're gonna go. I'm going to Paris this 2020. Right now, I'm currently coaching the wheelchair rugby team, and we have 5 Paralympians on that team. And so now you have a personal relationship and coaching relationship with these guys and gals, and you want to go see them play. So I'm looking forward to Paris 2024, and then there's a lot of conversation here in the United States about how we're promoting LA 2028 Paralympics, and I'm on a committee with the NCAA and the U.S. Olympic Paralympic Committee. They changed the name of the U.S. Olympic Committee, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So we're all moving in the right direction. And the Paralympics it's not our goal to get to the Paralympics. Our goal is to get a meaningful education and to empower somebody with education. But the Paralympics is the ice cream. It's the dessert. It's the thing we all want and have to work real hard to get it, right? So.
As an athletic director, and what is it like getting to see those athletes go on and perform and go into this society as teachers, doctors, and even people in the corporate world?
Yeah, it just validates what our thinking is, and that our thinking is that if you support a person with a disability in the right way, with the right challenges and goals and objectives, that they will be just as successful as their peers without disabilities. It's just they have to find their niche, and you have to work hard to find your niche. That's what life's about, right? Finding your niche. So that's where we're at, and it's empowering for me to be part of that journey.
You talk about, of course, your state-of-the-art adaptive sports facility.
Yeah, yeah. It's a small gym that is fully accessible, and we work on the operation of universal design. So that means there's very little barriers to getting into the gym and using the gym, and we let our community members. It's open to community members that are alumni and not alumni because the community doesn't have an accessible gym. I will say our campus rec center, which is directly across the street, which is that beautiful giant gym, has a lot of accessibility built into it. Like they have arm cranks, they have an indoor track that is very accessible for our athletes. They have zero entries for some of their racquetball courts, and then they have a swimming pool with the seats that get you in and out of the pool. So they've been great partners, but our gym's a little more a step above for the universal design with adaptive rowers and adaptive skiers and arm cycles and swing away weight rooms and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's fun to be there.
As an athletic director, what are some of your future plans for adaptive sports moving forward?
Sled hockey. Sled hockey comes to the University of Arizona in 2024. They're building an iceplex, which is a 3 ice skating rinks here in Tucson, Arizona, and they're building it with the promise to make it universally designed. Where we're going to have a locker for sled hockey gear, And so that's going to be one of the things. We are kind of maxed out on right now on how many student athletes we can take. We're at 60 right now, and with the sled hockey, we'll go up to about 75, I think, total, which will make us reach capacity. And then adaptive golf, we're going to be pushing adaptive golf and the envelope of adaptive golf, and trying to get that more popular with other colleges participating. Have a collegiate championship of that, and that's about that's.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to get into the adaptive sports to play adaptive sports?
Just go for it. Like, don't hesitate, don't wait, try everything. You got to find your sport and try to get it there early. So my advice for parents is, don't worry if your kid gets scuffed up a little bit. It's going to happen. It's part of life, right? Part of the problem I think we have as a community is that we're considered frail and not given the opportunities to get scratched up. And so now we got NFL sponsoring football. We got wheelchair rugby. We got wheelchair bat. These are contact sports. You're going to get scuffed up. That's all there is to it. So might as well go for it. Have fun with it.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to make the Paralympic team to represent US or Canada?
Got to make all those sacrifices, right? You have to learn how to say no when your friend says, let's go to the movies, or let's go have a beer, or let's go have an ice cream. You got to be able to say no, like, and be willing to make that sacrifice. Know that your social life, if you want to be an elite athlete, I don't care what sport it is, if you want to be an elite athlete, you're going to have to make sacrifices that include social life and some fun and this, that, and the other thing. If that's your goals and objectives, you have to have a narrow-minded focus on those goals and objectives. And sometimes it's not all fun and games, right? So that's the advice. Like, learn how to say no right away.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to get into this adaptive sports, whether it's as a college coach or athletic director like you have?
There's not so many spots in there, right? So there's so few opportunities in the world that we're in right now. It's almost like you have to blaze your own path, right? Like, I got lucky. The University of Arizona was a Ferrari on cruise control, and somebody handed me the keys, right? That's very, very rare. But there are other opportunities out there, and the world is moving into this more inclusive environment. And so establishing new relationships in new places and finding your own way of creating that niche. Be creative.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Arizona Adaptive Sports app?
Yeah, I think we're on University of Arizona Adaptive Athletics is on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I'm at like Coach Hughes on Facebook. I think I'm on Instagram too, like Coach P Hughes on Instagram, but I don't use that one at all. I need to learn how to use it. But you put me on the spot there.
Thank you again, Peter Hughes, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the Adaptive Sports Athletic Director for Arizona Wildcats.
Thanks. Bear down.
You can find Community Heroes on Facebook at Community Heroes, Instagram at com_heroes, Twitter at com_heroes, and you can find us on YouTube at Officially Community Heroes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Peter Hughes, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Arizona Wildcats Adaptive Sports.
Cheers.
You are watching Community Heroes. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Community Heroes on social media and on YouTube.